Hi, so this is a continuation of the clean-vim talk, in which I presented a lot of ideas about how one might use the editor with very simple minimalistic configuration, but it was just a lot of talking and a bag of ideas with no coherent presentation of how to actually do it, how to connect all of that together. So in this one I would like to do a showcase of the actual development of some kind, so with an explanation along the way, and we will connect to the ideas that were presented in the first video. But we will start with looking through my vimrc configuration, because I do have some. I never claimed that there is nothing here, but we will try to see what I have here, what is why, and we will also see that almost none of it is necessary, that the techniques that I will show would work regardless. It's just that I have some preferences that I set up. It's not like you cannot do it without this configuration, but I just simply have some convenience settings. So starting from the top, most people in their vimrc have non-compatible setting turned on, but the new Vims have them by default, so you don't really have to set non-compatible. And the first four, let's say, are about searching in general. So what I like is to, when I search, because as you can see I have very minimalistic, almost no syntax highlighting, and I like it that way. I have separate article about it on my website, and I like it that way because it helps me to actually read the code, and when I do the search, let's say show, it's very easy to see all the occurrences of what I'm looking for, of what I'm actually interested in. So for me, syntax highlighting is not as important as those three, which is to ink search makes it so that when I type a search phrase, it automatically goes to the next occurrence. Highlight search makes it so that all the occurrences are highlighted. So this allows me to like read the code, scan it via using search. I don't have to read all of that plain black and white. I just look for something. I look for maps, I look for leader configurations. You can immediately see them thanks to this HR search. It's also very useful when I do presentations for others. I try to discuss concepts, because for them it's also very easy to follow as to where I'm looking at, what I'm pointing at. Ignore case and wild ignore case is quite self-explanatory. When I search for something, I typically have no idea what is the capitalization of this word, so just to ignore the case. And the same goes for searching for files using the E. So when I don't actually know where I am. Okay, so let's go to Vim. So when I do the ** to search for something, and I typically don't know how the file is gonna be named. Everything here is lowercase, but in like C or Bash, Word, most of stuff are just lowercase, so it's not an issue. But when you go to the JavaScript and C# and Java, everything is capital, so it makes a headache to search for stuff. Yeah, no swap file. Vim by default, when you edit a file, creates a second file with the same name, which is hidden. I don't need that when I have version control. Auto indent is something that I use quite a lot. Let's take a look. Here I have a C program. So what I want from my Vim is that when I have a piece of code that is indented and I create a new line, it keeps the indentation, so I don't have to redo it, so I don't end up at the beginning of the line and now I have to indent it again. So that's all it this. It's just a preference of mine. It's not something really necessary to have, but yeah. And break indent, kind of similar thing. So let's say that I have a piece of code that is very nice indented, and here I have a very long line, long enough that it got wrapped around. So this is one line that got wrapped. Without this setting, this okay, so let's say set no break indent. So yeah, you now see how this line looks. If you have a bunch of these, it's kind of hard to read, so this settings makes it so that the indentation is kept no matter if it's a hard break or soft break of the line. And here I used the feature I talked about in the previous video. I pressed Ctrl F to go to the edit mode of my previously executed commands, and I could just edit the line, and now I press enter to execute it, and I turned on the setting back. Expand tab, yeah, Vim is kind of aggressive with the indentations because it tries to force one style of the file. It tries so that all of the indentations are either spaces or tabs. So if you have a tab indented file and you would manually type in 8 spaces, those 8 spaces will be turned into a tab. So it's impossible to even manually insert spaces, 8 spaces, without this setting. So even though I don't really want Vim to expand to change all the tabs to spaces, without these settings it's gonna change my spaces to tabs, which I don't like. So yeah, that's a must. Lazy redraw is just a performance thing. When you record a macro and you ask Vim to replay it like 1,000 times, it's gonna take a while because it's gonna show you what it's doing. It's gonna re-render every keystroke, and with this setting turned on, it's gonna finish on doing the macro. It's gonna not show you any screen updates until it's actually done, and it makes huge macros way faster. Show command, this one is on some Vim versions is enabled by default, on others is disabled by default. It just makes it so that in the right bottom corner, when I try to select a register where I would like to yank something, it's visible, and I like to have it. To show long lines, so if you have a very long line in Vim, let's say I joined this line to be quite a long one, and it happens to be at the bottom of your screen, it would not be rendered unless the entire line can be visible. And here you see those 3 at signs, and that's thanks to this setting. So show long lines makes it so that it shows me just a part of the line, even though the entire line is not visible, but it gives this indication that the line was cut. Make program is the trick I talked about. So thanks to that I can run anything using make. I can do grep, I can do ls, I can do anything, and it's gonna show me the result and populate the quick fix. It's an open quick fix window with those results, so that I can so I can look at them, I can search, copy paste, and I can jump to errors if there are any. So because I run a lot of commands using make or just dash from Vim, I have some of helper aliases and scripts in my bash rc, but Vim by default does not execute your bash rc because it tries to run a dummy version of the terminal, non-interactive one, and the I here makes it so that bash rc is loaded and terminal is interactive, which is not a good thing. it produces some bugs, but it helps me because like whenever I put something into my bash RC and I use it in terminal, I can also use the same, just exactly the same stuff in my Vim, and I typically use this SR function, which tries to be smart, and it's gonna use either git grep or regular grep, depending if I'm inside the git repo or not. So yeah, for example, like I can execute this SR function, which is in my bash RC, thanks to this setting. But it found nothing, probably because I'm in wrong location. Okay, so now it found a ton of results, and if I go here, I can jump between them. Hidden, this is quite an important one. Vim by default will not allow you to close a window if it has any modifications. So if I would do here an edit and I would like to just close this window with Control WQ or just W or just Q, by default Vim won't allow it. I first have to save the changes, but very often I close a running terminal, or I will close a file that I'm in the middle of editing. I still have this file in the list of my buffers. I can go back to it, but by default Vim won't allow you to close it. And it's typically the issue with terminals, because I can start a comment in here, and until you exit the terminal, this buffer is not finished, and Vim won't allow me to hide it like so, like I did just now. And now I can reopen it, and I can go back, and I can reopen it and go back, and that's thanks to the set hidden. It allows me to hide buffers that are like in the middle of editing, and the terminal buffers are considered to be in edit mode almost all the time. So yeah, that's kind of a must if you are using terminals in Vim. This is just a convenience thing, so that I see tailing, spaces, tabs, and so on. Nothing interesting. This is not really mandatory. This is just a habit of mine. Vim by default, when you are editing in Vim in insert mode, you can press Ctrl W to remove last word, but I'm very used to doing Ctrl backspace from Windows Notepad, so I just have a mapping for that, so those lines are unnecessary. As I taught in the previous video, escaping from the terminal is kind of cumbersome. There are actually two shortcuts to do it. There is also Ctrl V and capital N, I think. And different versions of Vim and on different operating systems, this shortcut tends to be different. And new Vim has a different one, so I just mapped this to escape. And also pasting in terminal also depends on Ctrl W, so I just mapped it to Ctrl V. So in the terminal I can just, if I copy something, let's say I selected this and I want to rename this file, so I move and I press Ctrl V, and now I can put a new name. Yeah, I'm using this quite a lot, as you can see. And also by default, terminal has quite a short memory. It holds like 1,000 lines, which is almost nothing when you use it a lot. So that's probably maximum possible setting. Unfortunately, you cannot set it to like infinite, so that it just goes to the limit of your memory. But yeah, that's better than nothing. And here we have a few more convenience things that are not necessary, because I started doing a lot of control-based shortcuts, like Ctrl W stuff. I just mapped saving the file to Ctrl S. It's cheesy, many beginners do it. I never done it, but now when I do a lot of my shortcuts via Ctrl W, the Ctrl S is very natural place on the keyboard to do so, and it's very fast for saving files. And because in the next one, as I said, I do a lot of this highlighting of stuff using search just to see them, not maybe necessary to search for them, but to make them pop. So very often I want to make them disappear, and I do this so often that typing this command, even though it's short, was cumbersome. So Ctrl H, and it makes the highlighting disappear until I search for another stuff. Ctrl G, that's the one that I don't actually use that much. I can remove it, but Ctrl G by default shows you some more information in the bottom about your file you are in, but if you add a number to it, like when you say 1 Ctrl G or 2 Ctrl G, it's gonna show you more information. So I unmapped. Now I have default behavior, so you can see it just tells me the name of the file and a few lines, and if I press 1 Ctrl G, it showed me the full path of the file. If I press 2 Ctrl G, it showed me also the buffer number, so it just shows you more information, and 2 Ctrl G is the most amount of information. I don't really use it that often, so I could just remove it. And as I said in the video, I use edit and buffer very often, so I have shortcuts for them, and these shortcuts are based on my muscle memory from using Ctrl P Fuzzy Finder. So I still use the same shortcuts, just not the plugin. So Ctrl P opens me the edit so that I can open a file, and but it also, in addition, what the first thing it does, it prints the current location in which I am. Because I work on many different projects at the same time and different files, I will often have different windows, will have different current working directory. So as here you see the one on the left is in the code SACC, and one on the right is in Vim. So in order for me to not get confused, every time I press Ctrl P, I have those two informations, where I am, and I press Ctrl D, which I talked about, to see what files are in the location where I am. So I can, in Vim, let's say I would like to search for some plugins. I don't know where they are. Yeah. Here I have quite a different layout than I remember. Let me see it all. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. And just one key below on the Ctrl L, I have the buffers. These are the buffers that I have all files I opened previously. Ctrl D, as I said many times, to see preview of all matching buffers. Tab, I can cycle through them, and I can narrow the search to, now I see buffer C and my terminal. I can start with the bank to just see opened terminals. Yeah, so these two very useful. They replace the entire plugins for me. Now I have a few leader ones. These are very personal, but first one maybe it's kind of useful because it makes it so that the location of the current window I am, so it's not just a CD, it's local CD, is set to the directory of the file I'm in. So quite often, if I would like to edit, if I open some random file somewhere, I don't know where, etc, and or where, maybe not this one, OS release, and I would like to open a file next to it or run a command next to it, I have to change the path of the Vim. and doing this manually every time, so you can do it in a way you can press Ctrl R and %. It's gonna paste in the path of the file you are in, and then you can remove one element, and now you are in the directory of the file. So I do it quite often, so I have a shortcut for it. It just changes the location of the current window to the directory of the current file. So when I go back to my SACC, I do the same, and I'm now back in the directory of this file. The next one is kinda complex one, but I use it, but it's probably nothing necessary. It's a fancy thing. It's, you know, we programmers, it's kind of hard for us to stop programming fancy stuff sometimes. So what it does, it just opens the last terminal of the opened terminals. So if I have more than one terminal, it's gonna open for me the last one. If I have just the one, it's gonna open me the one. Very often I jump to the terminal and back to the file, to the terminal, back to the file. So this shortcut allows me to do it quickly, and if there are no terminals, and that's why this command is so long, it's gonna open a new one for me. Yeah, maybe too much, but this one is interesting because that's an in-place calculator. I use it very often. So very often I have to perform a small calculation of some kind, and if I just type in an equation that ends with equal sign and I press leader equal sign, it's gonna do the calculation in place. You can figure it out how it works. It doesn't really matter for this presentation, but having in-place calculator is very helpful, especially for magos, people who don't understand computers or Vim. They understand this very well. So I can talk with someone and I can talk about numbers, and I can do quick Vim edits and calculations, and everyone understands what's going on. Like, they don't know how it happened that it got calculated. Damn it, that it got calculated, but they understand the equation. Then I understand the equal sign. So it's, yeah, I use it just like a piece of pen and paper for a lot of people. I quite often go back to my vimrc, so I have a shortcut for that, and I have a file with notes, which so I open those two files very often, so I have a shortcut for that. And this one, in addition, it not only opens this file, but it opens it at the first matching regex. So the first place where I have open like a checkbox. Yeah, I'm using checkboxes in my notes. So if I have a couple of them checked in, but one is checked out, this is gonna open this file and go to the first place with open checkbox, and then remove the highlight. So I can go to the place where I last been. Also, to interact with other software, quite often I need to copy the file name. It happens often enough, so I just have a shortcut for it. Yeah, and very often I have to have some type of time reference, so I have a shortcut for that. Free shortcuts to turn on spelling of two different languages and then disable it. I use spell check a lot in Vim, and these commands are kind of long. I never explored if I can turn it on with some kind of shortcut. They probably, as I talked in video, there is probably a built-in shortcut for turning on spell checking, so maybe I don't need those. Yeah, I have to look, but yeah, for now I have them. Another plugin that I didn't talk about, so yeah, that's a secret plugin. It's an easy align. It's completely unnecessary, but I very like to. I like it a lot when my code and my notes is aligned like a table. So in here you can see this thing, and I do it. Oh yeah, or this thing. I do it a lot. So I hate when code looks like this, because it's harder for me to spot errors So I have a plugin which allows me to do it. As far as I know, Vim, besides having a block selector, doesn't have this kind of smart feature to align blocks based on like regex or one character and so on. And here I have a few GUI related settings. So if you are not using GUI, it doesn't concern you. I have my own color scheme which removes most of the colors besides the diff of the kit, so I can see red and green. Integration with system clipboards disables GUI elements. I showed it on the presentation, and I use two fonts, mostly this one because it works better with smaller font, but this one I will use for presentations, and like let's say set to 10. Yeah, now it's bigger, ugly but bigger. Okay, so that was the Vim RC. Now let's go to small code presentation, how you actually use all of that or none of that, because most of what you saw were just some convenience personal settings, and everything that I'm gonna use is just by default in Vim. Yeah, so what I would like to do is to show you how I would explore unfamiliar code base, go around. I don't want to show you the coding part because you are not here for a live coding session in C. I would like to show you how I use the edit, buffers, make to move around, switch between files, search for strings, and compile stuff, and so on. So I start by splitting this using Ctrl+W+V. I open my terminal. Where I am? Okay, I'm in the same place where this file is. I have those files in here, and I have here my build script. It doesn't matter what it does. What matters for us is that I can execute it. I can execute it from Vim. I can do it also here, or I can do it with make. So what are the differences between all of those three options? Because I run the same script with three different ways. So here in the terminal, let's say that this script is gonna take a lot of time. So let's actually do it. I will put a sleep, let's say echo1, and paste it 10 times. And now we're gonna, between each one of these, put a second of sleep. Okay, now we've made the script slow. So the terminal has this advantage that while the command runs, I can still use the Vim. Yeah, you see? And then I can go back to terminal, whatever. And it doesn't even have to be visible, so I can run the command, I can hide the terminal, I can do my editing, and after a while I can go back to the terminal and it's still here. It was running all the time in the background. So that's what the terminal is for. But it has this disadvantage that if there is an error, so let's introduce here an error, it's gonna be at the very end of this build, so we have to wait. I'm doing something, the program is compiling, oh, and now it's an error. Problem is that I cannot really easily jump to those files. There is a built-in Vim gf command which tries to open the file under the cursor, but the stars has to be aligned, like your path has to be in the correct place and everything. So it works in here, but it's not always gonna work, and none of that is in the quick fix window. So yeah, it's just here. So that was this. Let me close this one. Now using make, because I talked a lot about make, and using make makes sense when your commands are fast, and that's why I really don't like the modern technology, because everything related to C#, JavaScript, TypeScript, Node, Rust, it runs so slowly that you have to run it asynchronously. But as you can see, it ran. I have to wait until it finished, it shows me the output and it disappears. And most people would be angry, okay, it disappears, that's stupid, I have to now manually open the quick fix window to have it useful. But no, the quick fix is designed in a way that you can go through the errors without using your screen real estate. You can view the list of errors without actually opening the window. You can go to one of the errors. Let's go to the 16th one, and it's gonna display you the error. You can do CC, so that to remember what the error was about. Like if you do some comment, the error disappeared from the bottom, but if you do CC, it reminds you. You can do C previous, and it shows you the error. It shows you and it moves you to the correct place as well. So if I'm in different place, it moved my cursor here. You don't always have to see open, but you often will want to, because it's gonna tell you more. But in many cases, in many cases you don't have to. So that was it. And running with a bang is almost the same as running with make. You have to wait for it. The difference, it's not gonna put it in the quick fix window. So yeah, it's if you see an error here and you press enter, that's the last time you saw the error. It's gone now. But because you have to wait for this command, there comes the async run, which I talked about. Now you cannot see anything, but it's as if you run it in terminal. It works asynchronously. It happens in quick fix window, and now we can see it. So let's run it one more time, and now you can see I can edit file, I can move around, and it runs. So async run is the same as using make, just asynchronously. Very good. I run all of my npm weird builds that take 3 minutes, and in the meantime I'm doing something else. So yeah, that's what we can. So there are 4 ways to run something from Vim, each one slightly different. I mostly have the terminal on the side, and I run my builds from Vim using either make or async run. But I also use grep. Yeah, well, let's see if we're gonna find it. So I have here a hack, and I wanted to spend time and explore the unknown library to use Vim to find out how you can figure this out, where the hack is, how I use the grep from Vim to move around a lot of files and so on. But this video is already half an hour long, so I'm gonna stop here. Maybe we can do it next time, but as you can see, I just run grep using make, because it runs in no time. There was no point of using async run, and it produced me results, a lot of results. But the advantage is that in this quick fix window I can do regular searches. I can highlight the thing I'm interested in and look for the stuff I'm interested in quite easily, quite fast. And yeah, I see that almost every mention of this trailer, which causes me issues here that I'm not gonna go into the details here, is in the same file. Yeah, here it is assigned, so maybe that's the place where I'm interested in. I can just press on it and it works. I can go back to my previous files, and so on. But yeah, I'm not gonna go into the details now because it's getting late, and I think that was enough of a demo. Thank you, and